Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mirren Review. Today's protagonist is the QIGOM S28A flagship earbuds, also known as the Hammer. In a market where high-end audio is almost completely dominated by IEMs, it's quite rare to see a flagship-level flathead earbud that takes things this seriously, not just in build, but in acoustic ambition. So in this video, we're going to take a closer look at it, from design to comfort, and most importantly, how it actually sounds. Let's start with the design. At first glance, the S28 already stands out from the usual earbud designs. The housing takes inspiration from a hammer-like form, which ties directly into its name. It's not just a visual gimmick, the structure feels purposeful, almost sculptural. The all-metal shell is made from aluminum alloy, available in both a polished silver and a matte black finish. In hand, it feels solid but not overly heavy. And, more importantly, the shape has clearly been optimized for long-term comfort. Despite its slightly larger size compared to typical earbuds, once worn, it sits securely and naturally in the ear. The cable is also worth mentioning. It uses a high-quality mixed conductor design with a soft, flexible structure that resists tangling quite well. Microphonics are minimal, and the overall usability is very polished, very much in line with a flagship positioning. Now, in terms of internal configuration, this is where things get really interesting. The S28 uses a large 15.4mm beryllium diaphragm driver paired with a high-grade magnetic circuit, reportedly reaching N55 level. Without going too deep into specs, what this means in practice is not just higher sensitivity, but better control, stability, and overall coherence in the sound. And combined with its open-back acoustic structure, the result is something that already hints at its core strength, scale, and spatial presentation. So, let's move on to the sound. And I think the first thing you notice when you put on the S28 is the sound stage. It's unusually wide for an earbud, but more importantly, it's not just width. There is a real sense of depth and layering here. Instruments are not simply spread left and right, they are placed at different distances, with a clear sense of front-to-back positioning. When listening to something like Quatuor Eben's Brazil, the separation between instruments feels remarkably natural. You can follow each instrument's position in space, and the transitions between near and far are smooth and coherent. It doesn't feel like a typical earbud presentation anymore. It starts to approach something closer to a small open-back headphone. Let's talk about the low frequencies. Using Massive Attack's Mezzanine as a reference, the S28 delivers a surprisingly solid, low-end performance for an earbud. The bass has good depth and a strong sense of atmosphere. It's not overly boosted, but it carries weight and presence. More importantly, the texture is well controlled. You can feel the layering in the bass lines rather than just hearing a soft blur of low frequencies. There's also a nice sense of elasticity in the bass response. It doesn't feel slow or bloated, and the decay is handled in a very natural way. Combined with the open soundstage, it creates a kind of immersive, almost cinematic low-frequency experience, especially with electronic or ambient music. Compared to the S55 Magician, the S28 takes a clear step forward in overall refinement. Even with its stronger bass presence, the separation is noticeably better, and the level of detail and resolution feels more polished and mature. It presents a more controlled, more refined, and ultimately more high-end listening experience. Moving into the mid-range, the S28 takes a slightly balanced but expressive approach here. Listening to Sting's 1,000 Years, the vocals are positioned at a very natural distance, not too forward, not recessed. The imaging is clean and stable with a clear outline of the vocal presence. What stands out is the density and texture. The voice has enough body to feel grounded, but it never becomes overly thick or colored. There's a sense of realism in how breath, phrasing, and subtle dynamic shifts are presented. And thanks to the open back design, there's also a slight softness around the edges, not in a negative way, but in a way that makes the presentation feel more relaxed and organic. For female vocals and high frequencies, the S28 shows another side of its tuning. Listening to Coop Island Blues, the vocal presentation is delicate and airy, with a smooth and extended treble response. The high frequencies here are quite refined. There is good extension and brightness, but without the thinness or sharpness that some earbuds rely on to create a sense of detail. Instead, the S28 maintains a certain density even in the treble, which gives instruments a more realistic tonal body. When it comes to strings or higher-pitched instruments, there's a sense of openness and elegance. The overtones are well preserved, and the overall presentation feels fluid rather than aggressive. So stepping back and looking at the overall sound signature, the S28 is a relatively balanced earbud with a slight emphasis on spatial presentation and upper range clarity. The bass is controlled and atmospheric, the mid-range is natural and expressive, and the treble is extended yet smooth. But more importantly, it's the coherence of the whole presentation that stands out. Nothing feels exaggerated, and everything works together to create a very complete and immersive listening experience. Another interesting aspect is how the sound changes depending on usage. Without foam covers, the S28 delivers a more open and spacious presentation, with clearer edges and a stronger sense of air. With full foam covers, the sound becomes fuller and more weighted, with increased body and warmth. And with donut foams, you get a nice balance. The sound remains relatively full, but the resolution and micro detail come through more clearly, making it a great option if you want both musicality and precision. So in a way, it's almost like having two tunings in one device, depending on your preference or the type of music you're listening to. Overall, after spending quite some time with the S28, I think it's fair to say that this is not just another high-end earbud, it's a statement product. It challenges the common assumption that earbuds are only for casual or entry-level listening and shows that, when done properly, they can deliver a truly high-end experience. If your priority is a large, natural soundstage, strong spatial imaging, and a balanced yet expressive tuning, the QIGOM S28 is definitely something worth considering. And in many ways, it reminds us that good sound isn't limited by form factor. Sometimes, even a small earbud can create a surprisingly vast musical world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. Your support is what allows us to continue bringing good original content.